She was 21 years old. She had been in Germany for 11 months. She did not speak German well enough to feel comfortable in it. She did not speak English well enough to feel confident in it. She spoke Turkish fluently, completely, with the full weight of everything she had ever needed to say. And in the city of Hamburg, in the spring of 1985, that was the language nobody around her needed. Leyla Arslan had come to Germany on a work program. Her father had come before her, 15 years earlier, part of the first generation of Turkish workers who had arrived in Germany when Germany needed what they had to offer and had not yet fully considered what it would mean to receive them. Her father had built something, a small apartment, a routine, a life constructed from the outside in, the external structures of a new country assembled around an interior that remained, in every essential way, Mersin. The smell of her mother's kitchen, the sound of the call to prayer at a specific hour, the particular quality of light over the Mediterranean that she had not known was specific until she arrived somewhere that had a different light entirely. Leyla had joined him at 20. She had taken a job through a placement agency, cleaning and basic operations at a large event venue in Hamburg. The work was physical and repetitive and paid slightly more than her alternatives. She had been doing it for 11 months when the venue was selected as one of the stops on Tina Turner's Private Dancer World Tour. Leyla did not know who Tina Turner was. This is not a failure of knowledge. It is a statement about what a 21-year-old girl from Mersin, Turkey, working in Hamburg in 1985, had been surrounded by growing up. The music that had filled her childhood was not the music of Ike and Tina Turner. It was the music of her mother's kitchen and her grandmother's village, and the specific cultural inheritance of a girl who had grown up knowing exactly who she was until she got on a plane and arrived somewhere that did not know what to do with her. The production crew arrived on a Thursday. The venue transformed overnight. Trucks backed into service entrances. Cases the size of small rooms were moved through corridors by people who did this with the practiced efficiency of people who have done it in 40 cities before this one. Leyla had been assigned to the load-in support team. Her job was to hold doors, redirect venue traffic, and stay out of the way of the people who were doing the technical work. She was good at staying out of the way. 11 months of being in a country that had not fully decided what to do with her had made her very efficient at occupying space without drawing attention to it. She had developed, without naming it, the specific skill of the person who is present everywhere and noticed nowhere. The skill of someone who has understood, from experience, that visibility in certain rooms has costs that invisibility does not. She watched. She listened. She learned the layout of rooms faster than the people who had been in them longer. She anticipated what would be needed before it was asked for. She did all of this quietly, in the language nobody around her needed. She had been holding a door open for 40 minutes, a heavy side access door that the production team needed propped while they moved equipment, when someone came and stood beside her. She assumed it was another crew member. She did not look up. She was watching the equipment moving through the door, tracking the flow, doing the invisible work of making something large happen smoothly. The person beside her said something, in English. Leyla understood the tone, casual, not directed at her specifically, and did not respond. She did not speak English well enough to feel confident in it. The person said it again, this time with a slight adjustment in direction. The way a person adjusts when they realize they are talking to someone specific rather than into the general air. Leyla looked up. Tina Turner was standing beside her. Leyla did not know this immediately. She saw a woman in casual clothing, dark trousers, a simple jacket, with an extraordinary presence that the clothing did not contain. A woman who occupied the space beside her the way that very few people occupy any space. Completely, without effort, as if the space had always been waiting for her specifically. There was something else, something Leyla registered before she registered anything else. The woman was not looking at the equipment moving through the door. She was not looking at the production crew. She was not doing what everyone else in that corridor was doing, moving through it, past it, toward the next thing on a list. She was looking at Leyla. Not with the specific attention of recognition, not as a famous person acknowledging a staff member, with the specific attention of someone who has seen something they want to understand better. Leyla looked at her. The woman said something again. Leyla understood one word: heavy. She looked at the door, then back at the woman. "Yes," Leyla said, in English, the one word she was confident in. The woman nodded. She put her hand on the door beside Leyla's. She helped hold it. They stood together at the door for perhaps 3 minutes. The equipment moved through. Neither of them spoke again. The woman's hand on the door beside Leyla's hand. Leyla has described those 3 minutes many times. Not the conversation. There was no conversation. The standing. The specific quality of standing beside someone at a heavy door when you have been standing at it alone for 40 minutes. She has said it was the first time in 11 months in Germany that someone had stood beside her without it requiring anything from either of them. No explanation, no documentation, no performance of belonging. Just a hand on the same door. When the last of the equipment had passed through, a production team member came to take over the door. The woman dropped her hand. She nodded at Leyla once. She began to walk away. Then she stopped. She turned back. She looked at Leyla for a moment. A longer moment than the situation required. The moment of someone who has something to say and is deciding whether to say it. Then she said something in English that Leyla did not fully understand. Not all of it. She understood 3 words. You belong here. Then the woman walked away, down the corridor, toward the production area, her footsteps receding on the concrete floor, until Leyla could not hear them anymore. Leyla stood at the door, the heavy door, that she had been holding for 40 minutes, her hand still on it. She turned the 3 words over in the way a person turns over something they have been given and do not yet know the full weight of. You belong here. Her German colleagues passed her in the corridor. Nobody noticed that she was standing still. Nobody noticed that something had happened. She was still invisible. But the invisibility felt different now. Not the invisibility of someone who has made themselves small to avoid cost. The invisibility of someone who is standing in a private moment that has not yet become a story. A colleague came to tell her she could take a break now. Leyla said she would in a minute. She stood at the door for another few minutes, not holding it up anymore, just standing. She did not know who the woman was until that evening. The venue staff gathered in the break room to watch the production team's final preparations. Someone had put a cassette on. The voice that came out of the small cassette player was the voice Leyla had heard say 3 words in a corridor. Except now it was filling the room. Not 3 words, a song. A complete, enormous thing that the small cassette player was barely large enough to hold. Leyla looked at the cassette cover. She looked at the photograph on it. She recognized the presence before she read the name. Someone told her who it was. They told her what the album was called. Private Dancer. They told her how many copies it had sold. They told her about the Grammy Awards, about the comeback, about the 37 rejections and the Tuesday night clubs and the borrowed dresses, and the woman who had been told she was too old and too finished and had been spectacularly, historically wrong. Leyla listened to all of it. She listened the way a person listens when they are rearranging their understanding of something they witnessed, taking the 3 minutes at the door, the hand on the door beside hers, the 3 words on the way out of the corridor, and placing them inside a story that was much larger than the corridor had suggested. The woman who had said, "You belong here," had been told for 15 years that she did not. Not by a single person, by an industry, by a system, by the accumulated weight of every polite explanation about why she was too old and too past and too finished. And she had walked into a corridor in Hamburg and stood beside a 21-year-old girl from Mersin, Turkey, who was holding a heavy door, who did not speak the language, who had spent 11 months being present everywhere and noticed nowhere. And she had put her hand on the door, and she had said 3 words. Leyla listened to the music. She has said in the years since that she did not understand at the time what the 3 words meant, not fully. She understood them the way a person understands something they need to grow into, a container that is larger than what it currently holds. The way certain sentences arrive before you are ready for them and wait inside you until the readiness develops. You belong here. She went to the concert that night. One of the venue staff passes that the production team distributed to arena workers. She stood in the wings, not because she was assigned to be there, but because nobody told her not to. She watched Tina Turner perform for a sold-out arena. She watched 20,000 people respond to a voice she had heard say 3 words in a corridor. She did not understand most of the songs. The language was still the language she was not yet comfortable in. But she understood what was happening in the room. The way 20,000 people lean forward together when a performer walks to the edge of the stage. The way the air in a room changes, physically, tangibly changes, when someone is doing the thing they were built to do. The specific, unmistakable energy of someone standing in the place they were told they could not stand, and standing there completely. And the 20,000 people around them understanding, without being told, that they are witnessing something that required everything to make possible. Leyla stood in the wings for the entire show. She did not move. She watched. At the end of the final song, Tina Turner walked to the edge of the stage. She looked at the audience. She looked, once, toward the wings. Leyla does not know if the look was directed at her. She has said she does not need to know. She knows that she was standing there, visible, in the wings of something large, for the first time in 11 months in Germany. Leyla Arslan has worked in event production in Germany for 38 years. She has been present at more large-scale concerts and events than she has counted. She has worked her way from door holding to stage management to producing, the long, incremental work of a person who decided, at some point in the late 1980s, that the invisible work deserved to be done by someone who understood what it was to be invisible. She has hired people who looked like her, people who did not speak German well enough to feel comfortable in it, people who had arrived from somewhere else and were doing the specific, difficult work of constructing a life in a country that had not yet decided what to do with them. She has stood beside them, not always with words, sometimes simply stood beside them the way someone once stood beside her at a heavy door, put her hand on the same problem, stayed for 3 minutes. She has never forgotten the 3 words, not as a story she tells, as something she carries. The way certain things are carried, not in the hands where they can be put down, but somewhere else entirely, somewhere that does not have a closing time. The woman who said them never knew her name. Leyla knows hers. Tina Turner. The woman who stood beside her at a heavy door, put her hand on it, and said, "You belong here." 3 words said in a corridor to a girl nobody was watching, by a woman who had spent 15 years being told the same 3 words did not apply to her, and who had learned, through 37 rejections and borrowed dresses and half-empty clubs and 4 Grammy Awards and 20 million people in arenas on 6 continents, that the most important thing you can do with the belonging you fought for is give some of it away. If this story moved you, if someone once told you that you belonged, subscribe and share this video. Leave a comment. Tell us about the 3 words that changed something for you. We read every one.